Hi guys. Today I'm going to make a video to show you a couple of tricks with Google Earth, and in order to do that, I'm also going to give you an example of how scrapbooks can be helpful, but they can also lead to bias. You could pretty much make them fit many solves by twisting and turning things. I'm going to use Scrapbook 107 and 180 as an example. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to go over my entire solve. This is an old solve that I had. This is the solve that I went on site for in May and June of last year. And the chest is not there, I'll say that much. I know that for sure. But I just want to show you, well, first of all, when I created the solve, it didn't have anything to do with scrapbooks. I'm able to get the poem to work with that solve perfectly. The scrapbooks came in when I was trying to verify after the fact. So a couple of things to note. First, in the poem, we have the word WISE. Well, WISE is an acronym for World Information Service on Energy. And that's the bureau that handles reclaimed nuclear waste sites. Okay. Also, keep in mind that uranium is sometimes called yellow cake. And it's interesting because yellow cake is not actually yellow, it's brown or black. So in this scrapbook, Forrest says he's paying his gas bill. Well, let me show you a couple of things here. Let's go into Google Earth. Okay. And I'm going to turn on some of the point of references that I have. And let's go over to where my solve ended. So you see gas bill. Could he be talking about Gas Hill Road? Okay, this is Gas Hill Road here. Riverton has a lot of things going for it. First of all of the Lucky Mac mines over here, this is called Gas Hills. And this is where the majority of the uranium came from in the state of Wyoming during the Cold War times. Riverton is also the closest Walmart that you're going to find. Riverton is where you would go to renew your driver's license. But you wouldn't go to the MVD, you would go to the DMV. But perhaps the twisted phone cord is kind of hinting at the fact that maybe we need to twist things around that he said in the scrapbook in order to figure out what the hints are. So we have in near Riverton, Gas Hills, Lucky MC Camp, Morton Salt, up here, Morton, Midvale, Sandral. Those are also hinted at in there. This letter here that is in that scrapbook, okay. And you can see he has a pen in here. He has the $5 bill upside down. He's got a stamp. And you can see some of the words in here. And you can also see 1921. Well, a couple of interesting things happened in 1921. First thing is Sublette County was formed by taking part of Fremont County. That happened in 1921 when Sublette County was formed. So the boundaries in Fremont County have remained unchanged since 1921. 1921 is also the year that Amelia Earhart bought her first airplane, and Einstein won a Nobel Prize. Okay. Now, where anagrams go, we have RENC down here. RENC can anagram to CERN, CERN, which is the European Organization for Nuclear Research. Okay? And then we have LDERNES. Well, one of the things that anagrams to is nurdles. And they're plastic particles that are used to deal with water pollution. In this area at the mine, these spots over here, those are tailing ponds, okay? And in order to clean up the tailing ponds, those nurdles were used. And also trees were planted. The Lucky Mac, or Lucky MC uranium mill was right here. That's gone. And pretty much the whole area was cleaned up. They planted trees and stuff like that around here. And hopefully over time the trees will help improve the area. The mines themselves were all here. This used to be kind of mountainous, but they strip mined it, so the mountains are gone. But the mines were here, tailing ponds were here, and we have Ore Road, turns into Dry Creek Road. At the end of Gas Hill Roads is where the mine was, the mill was, I'm sorry. And eventually, they also truck stuff up down from the ghost town, Jeffrey City, down here. There's a road leading up, and they would mine from down here, and they would bring all the stuff up the road to the mill. So in Forrest time, these roads existed, and actually Jeffrey City, in the up until probably the 80s, was a pretty popular place. A lot of the people that worked there lived here. My partner that lives in Wyoming, he been living there, his family, for 3 generations. His dad and his grandfather actually worked here. So when he was a child, he used to play around here a lot, before all this was closed down. So he's familiar with a lot of things, such as this butte right here, which is where my solve ended. And speaking of the solve, again, it's wrong, and I'm not going to go into detail of how I made the solve, other than I'll point out that my warm waters halt was in at Madison Junction. Okay. All right, Madison Junction is here. So instead of going west, I went south. Now, if you were parked in this parking lot, okay, and you left your car and you took your car and you headed out south on 287 would actually begin this way, and 287 also begins again over here at the exit of the park, where it goes up and ends in Montana. 287 goes all the way from Montana down to Texas, where it ends. Now, 287 has only one split in it, and that split happens in Yellowstone. It's split here, and it's split at the south exit, which is over here. Okay? So if you were going to head back to Texas, you would go down here, you would exit from Madison Junction. The other way would be heading north, right? So I went down, and that's where my warm waters halt was. And by the way, while I'm giving out hints here, this is north. If you double click it, it'll reorient the screen such that everything is facing north. So my saw pretty much went down past Moran, down here. And again, I'm not going to get into it, but if you follow the clues in the poem, it took me down to Riverton. And then from Riverton, it took me down 136, which is a paved road. And when you get, I'd say, this part of the road is high, and when you're driving in, this sarcophagus is pretty much the only thing that you're going to see. I mean, it stands out like a sore thumb. It's about 100 feet tall. When you get down here, it's no longer within your view. In other words, if you went to the end of this road and parked your car right here, you would not be able to see the butte. You will see the butte up until probably right around here. And then it disappears behind this berm as you get down here. Okay. Now, the interesting thing with that solve is if you start and follow the clues through the poem, and you started at, if your where warm waters halt was Madison Junction, mine is no longer there, but if you started there and you stopped your car right here and got out and looked at your odometer, you would have traveled exactly 242 miles to this spot. Okay? And that's where you would reach the poem, the part of the poem where it says, the end is ever drawing nigh, there'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high. But the canyon, where it says not far, but too far to walk, if you interpreted the 242 as 242 miles, it would go here. So now you're done with the driving part, okay? Now you're going to do the walking part, and pretty much it walks you to the butte. Now, many of the people that come here to visit, tourists and probably searchers, there's a path over here, and this is a mud and clay city. This is the ruins. And, north of that is Castle Gardens, which is up here. And then Hell's Half Acre is over here. This is the halfway point between Shoshone and Casper. So when Forrest recently talked about stopping in Hell's Half Acre, he was right about the halfway point on Highway 20. Okay. This is also around the area where Skippy left him in Thrill of the Chase book. If you read the book where he describes. Somewhere around here. He was on that wood. That road was paved. But in the 50s, this road, 136, not that road, was also paved. And it was heavily used because of the mines up until the 80s. It's still used now. It's no longer paved when you reach Dry Creek Road and Ore Road, okay? So Dry Creek Road was my sign, no paddle up your creek. This is where you get out of the car. And the only thing you seen as a blaze coming in was the butte, okay? So you would walk to the butte. To about 500 feet west of the butte, there's a path that a lot of people would go on that takes you to Mud Clay City. And you have to take that path because this whole area, up and including that, is all private property. All of it. This is private property. This is private property. But there's a slit in this property from here that goes up to the butte and then back down around this way. That is the only BLM land in this area. It's not owned. You can park your car. There's a couple of stones and a marker over here that describe the mines. And you can pretty much, don't go through the gate over here, but you can walk up around this way. If you do go through the gate, again, that's private property. But if you get up around here, that would actually be the easiest way to walk down here. And this is BLM, okay? And so is a lot of this area. But the chest is not here. I have some pictures I'll show you later that my partner took. He discovered a cave here. And I know at least one other searcher was here. And I'm not going to mention their name. It was a female. And I'm not going to mention her name for privacy. But I will tell you that if they stood anywhere around here, okay, if they went to the butte, because again, the butte stands out, they would have been within 200 feet of the chest if the chest was on the top of this thing. My partner actually climbed up the top of this thing. And when you get on top, if you go to the edge and look quickly down, there's a ledge down from the top that you can only get to and see from the top. And behind it, there's a little cave tucked in behind some rocks. Inside that cave, there was an old campfire. It looked that the remnants of it were probably at least maybe 100 years old. And we found some tools in there. And my partner thinks that those tools were most likely from a sheep herder that was seeking shelter from the elements up in here while they were working with the sheep or what have you. I don't know. I like to think something else, maybe cool. Maybe Butch Cassidy held up in there. Maybe Forrest, when he got dropped off, he wasn't really taking 26. Because if you look, his brother could have easily drove down 136, which would have been a shortcut, and then take Ore Hill Road down to Jefferson City and be right on 287 here. And if he did that, he would cut off, coming down through Lander and everything, and actually be taking a shortcut coming down this way. Okay, now I'm not saying that's what happened, but it certainly could have if his brother dropped him off here and Forrest was walking around. Who knows, maybe Forrest was up in this thing. That were my thoughts at the time. But Forrest had told me the day before in an email, we were having some discussion, and he wasn't answering me, because this was related to a solve. I sent him a bunch of video and pictures, and eventually he told me to look around. Look around yourself. Do you see any mountains? And I told him, yeah, I do, because you can actually see the mountains over here. You can actually see the Wind River Mountains here and the mountains to the north. And this is not a desert. The only desert in Wyoming is down here, the Red Desert, the sand dunes, which is south of the Sweetwater River. Okay. But I looked at it like, who am I to argue with Forrest? Forrest is telling me, no, you're in a desert. So I'm not going to argue with the man that hit it. And, he never said whether my solve was right or wrong. Because he never answered any of my emails regarding any solve other than this one time when he said, look around you. Do you see mountains? And no, Troy, you're in a desert. The very next day was the day that he announced on Jenny's up to some hints to make the chase safer. This was due to the deaths that occurred last year in May and June. And he also wrote in there, if your solve is in a desert, get a new solve. Now, that was roughly 10 hours after I talked to him, and he specifically mentioned desert to me. Is he making reference to me? I can't prove it, but we had just talked about the desert, and I'm assuming he did that just to make sure that if I said anything, that everybody's even, that it is not in the desert. So I'm telling you now that Forrest considers this desert. Technically, it's arid plains. It is not a desert, but he considers it a desert. And there was a lot of hints that goes on in this area in the poem, including, if you look here, when it's leading in, this, by the way, is the Indian reservation border. So you have to go through the Indian reservation to get out there. When you get out in that area where you get to the part of the poem where it's ever drawing nigh, if you look here, these are all a bunch of draws. Here we got Laramie Jack draw, Jumping Off draw, Mahoney draw, Ohio draw. There's tons of them, including one named after Del Monte, which, of course, not the same Del Monte from the Olive Jar Company, but can that be a hint? I don't know. Anyway, I want to show you a couple of things here on how easy it was to make this scrapbook kind of confirm, even though this was wrong. So again, we have that he was paying his gas bill. Can it be Gas Hill Road? Okay, now Forrest talks in The Thrill of the Chase how he lived in the cheap house, and across the street, the rich people lived in their brick houses. There's Castle Gardens. So is he kind of, metaphorically saying that him and Peggy lived here in the Mud City, And when he went to go pay his gas bill, he drove down here on 136, and he went into Riverton, and he was beeping his horn in Riverton. I don't know. Now, teacup, okay? If you look at the envelope, again, this can anagram the teacup. Well, Teacup Butte, the vertebrate fossil locality in USGS 233, is Fremont County, Wyoming. It's within the Gas Hills Quadrangle. And that documents are maintained at University of Wyoming. Well, if you mirror Mr. U, okay, mirror the W, you have the University of Wyoming. Could be, maybe it's stretching it. I don't know. The Bureau of Reclamation, Reservoir Storage, River Unit, Fremont County, when the Indians ceded a portion of the Wind River Reservation to form the town of Riverton. Those were the reclamation was termed the teacup diagrams. You could look that up. It's that all of that has to do with, this could be a hint, this teacup. Okay. And before I pointed out LDERNES and then VENC, 1921, again, Sublette County was formed as part of Fremont. Fremont's borders didn't change since then. That was the year Amelia Earhart had her first plane. The Nurdles. One other funny thing, if you look at the pictures in here, okay, we got this white powder here, or it looks like white powder. It's actually reflection. It looks like a fluorescent light. Well, who knows? But it could also be referencing that area. Everything out there is white, all over the place. And if you look at Forrest's dog, in a lot of his scrapbooks, he always seems to be facing a hint. I don't know. Well, if you take the dog to CQ and anagram and I'm bad at Spanish, so please excuse me, but you end up with UE Quest, which my understanding can be considered to be your quest. So, in other words, it's to CQ saying your quest will cease over here. Okay, and then this is a teacup. They hint to the teacup stuff in addition to the other stuff. It's a gas bill. It's a gas hill road. His driver's license at the MVD is really DMV. And then the phone. If you take these numbers on the phone, down here, you can dial the zip code of the area where the Lucky MC mine is. And then we got Tin Cup Mountain here. And then we got Black Mountain. Well, the phone is black. And here's a really big one. Let me go back into Google Earth again. And let me turn on a couple of things here. Well, first of all, let's get rid of the Wind River Reservation border here because we don't really need to see it. I don't know how many of you have ever looked at this. And you look at all of the hints that are in here. Did you ever notice that this, just geographically, to a kid looking at Google Earth, looks like an arrow? An arrowhead, okay? This is down by South Pass. This is up by the hole in the wall, which is all the Bush Cassidy stuff. And, of course, Teapot Rock, Independence Rock, South Pass, Riverton, Lander, Shoshone. This is the Lost Cabin, which I'll be getting to pretty soon. Du Bois. The largest glaciers in all of the Rockies, right here. Okay. Circuit Towers, right here. All of these rivers coming off here form the Wind River, which changes names right in the Wind River Canyon at the Wetting of the Waters, and it changes to the Bighorn River when it gets past the Owl Creek Mountains and heads into Thermopolis. So there's an awful lot of ties to this area. Here's we got Togwotee Pass. This area is the coldest area inhabited by man in the Rocky Mountains. Here we got Thor Peak, okay, and here's Owl Peak. There's the Snake River headwaters. Wind River headwaters are over here. And then, of course, we got other headwaters that contribute to the Wind River. The Green River headwaters are on the west side of the Continental Divide that goes through here. So we got major rivers here. The Green, the Snake, the Yellowstone River starts around here, and the Wind River here. So here we drain into three areas: Pacific Northwest. This all ends up in the Mississippi. Okay, so it drains into the Atlantic. And this one ends up in the Grand Canyon. And it is at 10,200 feet, the headwaters of the Green River. And, of course, it drains into the Gulf of California, right? So it kind of looks like an arrowhead. Right? Just trying to use the imagination here. I suppose Bill Gorman will like this. So let's go down here and take a look at a couple of things here. I positioned the $5 bill. I don't want to explain how I aligned these pens, but I believe they're there for alignment, okay? And it tells you where to position this image. But if you take that image and you flip it, okay, one of the things you're going to notice is the bottom of the bill is facing Colorado. And if you flip at the back of the $5 bill, the only state that's in the search area mentioned in the $5 bill is Colorado. So we have it facing Colorado. Lincoln's Head is facing north. And north of here, we have the Lost Cabin. Of course, we also have Lincoln County over here. Now, Lincoln's Head kind of blends in with that background. Let me mess with the opacity here. Also, look at this edge. Okay? And look at where these intersections are. And Gas Hill is kind of parallel with Gas Hill Road. Watch. The stamps are right by Mud or Clay City. A lot of this stuff here, some of it seems to blend in with the background. Obviously, it's not going to exactly blend in. But this white here kind of blends in with Lincoln's nose. Right? Also, if you look, doesn't this kind of look like a rainbow? The back, where he has the back notch bent over on the $5 bill. Well, one of the things is the part that he folded over. If you really zoom in on this, it happens at the R. The R is covered off in the. Only the E exists in Treasure that you can see here. So in other words, the bill says Treasure, right? But he cuts off the R. So Treasure is under the fold. This kind of looks like the end of a rainbow. And under the end of that rainbow is the Butte. Now again, look at Lincoln's Head, kind of using your imagination. Look at the white in the bill on the O. You see how it lines up with this? Okay. I found that pretty interesting. When I seen this, to me, it only confirmed my solve. And again, I'm not going to get into my solve, but you see how easy it is to get stuff biased in such a way that it fits. I think this one is a little bit more than just slightly convincing. I mean, that seems to be there. And here's another bill without I cut the black out, but it's pretty much the same thing. I don't have this one in the same exact position, so. But now, here goes Scrapbook 180. I'm not going to read that one. You can go look it up. But basically, it's a story about golf, and it's a story about binoculars, and a story about this flask. Well, a couple things I want to point out. These initials are either MC or MAC, depending on how you interpret it, right? Now, if you look here, we have shamrocks in the silver. Well, shamrocks mean luck. The four-leaf clover, luck of the Irish, okay? And then we got thistles. We got sagebrush thistles, So MAC, it could be the lucky flask plus the lucky MC mine. Could this flask represent the Lucky Mac mine, right? The guy was using binoculars looking away from the spot. Now, if you look around on the internet, you'll find a picture of the man and his wife that discovered this area. Okay. Now imagine they were on top of this butte, because you'll see they're standing on the incline of a hill. They got the binoculars out, and they're looking this way. Okay. Well, let me show you something else that's over here. Oops, I don't have the thumbnail there. Let me see if I could find it. Here it is. Look at this. Interesting. Well, I did some research into that. And I guess in the 80s, when the guys were cleaning this area up, they decided to kind of be cute and form an owl or an alien-like thing out of the rocks. I have a funny feeling that a lot of searchers been here. It's obvious that you see this, all right? And here's all the mines, okay? I'm sure, I'm positive that Forrest had flown over this thing. And, on his way up and back and forth to Cody. And maybe he said one day, I'm going to go down and check that area out. I know people seen it. You cannot see it from, it's quite far from here. You're not going to see it from that distance. From the butte, perhaps. I don't know. But the other thing I want to point out about the binoculars is in Riverton, there's a company called, let me see my notes here, Brunton. Brunton is famous for geologists, archaeologists, surveyors, and they're headquartered in Riverton. They're still headquartered in Riverton, but those binoculars that guy was holding were probably made here. I think that's another hint to Riverton. There's a lot of hints to Riverton, as a matter of fact. Some of them you may be stretching it. For example, this cross in Forrest. Okay, we got INRI, the pack symbol. That's a reliquary, right? It's got INRI. Well, could that mean in Riverton, right? I don't know where the intersection of 26 and 789 is, that you're making a turn there. INRI, of course, is Latin for Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. But who knows? Maybe he's using it as a hint. I don't know. Another thing that points to this area is the Lucky MC mine was owned by Pathfinder Mines. Okay. And if you look up UR Energy Incorporated, that is Utah International and General Electric Company, COGEMA Incorporated, which is UR-Energy. Okay. And that goes back to this letter again, where we have UR and then energy from anagrams. So, is that the place? I don't know. Now, here's the other thing. This is that same area, screenshot. Everything in red is private property. And if you look, this is the butte. You can get up around here and here, and it's not private property. This is BLM. This is private property. This is private property. This, for some strange reason, is not. So if you go here, and it's up to you if you want to take the road. I know people who have one on that road, and nobody had a problem. There was somebody parked around here in a pickup truck watching while they were there. They didn't say anything, though. The person that was there for me actually went up to the truck and talked to them, told them why they were there. And another thing I'd be careful of is if you do go here, you better go early in the morning, because this is like rattlesnake central. Bring a gun. Be very careful. Use a walking stick there. When the ground starts heating up, the snakes will be out. I guarantee you that. You're going to see at least one, maybe two rattlesnakes over here. And this area, the terrain is flat relatively, but it's real easy to step over a tiny rock or a hill and have a cluster of rattlesnakes being there, especially down in here. I'd be careful with that. There's also another area here that's similar to a butte and over here, but this is the main butte, about 100 feet tall. And I'm going to show you now how to load an overlay in Google Earth. Actually, before I do that, let me actually show you. If you were on top of the butte and you looked west, this is what you would see. This is not all the way on the top. This is on the way up. But there's a lot of big rocks. There's the Wind River Mountains in the background. This is the clay or mud city. And then 136, of course, goes out here. Riverton is probably out of sight over here. And as you're going up the hill, you're going to pass these strange things. I don't know how they were made, who they were made, what they're there for, but it kind of almost is like you're walking up to go on a vision quest. Who knows? I know this area is a sage grouse area where they hunt them. This is one of their mating areas all around here. So when Forrest talks about his grandmother chasing chickens, could he be talking about Indians chasing sage grouse? Could be. If they were, they would probably be out here doing it. When you get up to the top, behind some rocks, there's a cave that goes in about maybe 10 feet. You could probably fit one person in here. This is all we've seen. There looks to be a 17 carved in the wall. A wooden stick was here. And there's a couple of other things you could barely make out that were etched in the wall. And there's some stuff on the ground. The tools were here. They're gone. We took them. And this is where that stick was. This could probably have somebody sitting on it. This fire had stuff around it. This fire is really old. I don't think anybody's been in this cave for a long time. There's no chest in here though. I sent all these pictures to Forrest. I sent him video. And the reason why I did that is I wanted to prove that we were on site. We weren't just trying to get him to validate a sob. And he never did validate the sob either way. The only thing he told me eventually after enough time was that you're in a desert. So let's go back now to Google Earth. If you want to open up an overlay, you right click here and you go to add image overlay. Okay. So now we loaded that picture. Right. Move this to the side. I want to show you a couple of things. If you grab any of these handles, you can resize the image, right? But it's going to mess up the proportions. If you want to hold the proportions, hold the shift key while you're dragging it. Now it'll proportionally scale it. Okay. So let me move it. You grab the middle X and you can move it to where you want it. I'm going to move it here. I'm going to grab this, scale it way down. Okay. I'm going to move it and try to position it where the roads are and the intersection is. And the other thing you can do when you get it there is change the opacity. Okay. So obviously I don't have it in the right spot. It needs to be a little bit bigger. So I'll move it up. It's easier to do this. You can see if you watch this crack, it's kind of close enough for now. I think I have it slightly too big because the roads are out of alignment. But I think you get my point, and you can see again where these areas are. All right. Now, if you want to rotate the image, there's a handle here, and you can grab the handle and rotate it any way you want. And that's kind of useful for loading up like historical maps and trying to overlay them where you want them. And again, you can mess with the opacity here, right? To try to get it right. You got to zoom in and out and use the C. If I don't hold shift, I'm distorting the image. You don't want to do that. Because Forrest, if he has any images anywhere in the scrapbooks, they're probably at a certain proportion for a reason. Probably would not be a good idea to mess with it. So that's pretty much that. Hopefully you learned something of this, how easy it is to bias yourself when you start looking anywhere beyond the poem and the book, the thrill of the chase. So just be careful on what you're looking at. And once again, good luck. I hope that you learned something here. And, be sure to subscribe to find out about future videos. And if you like it, hit the like button below. It'll help me decide whether or not it's worthwhile making these videos. So, again, thank you and have a good day.